All right, Nick, it's time to talk about the Florida State Seminoles once again. They're making a lot of news in the recruiting department, Nick, and we talked about just last week about how this team has really shown back to prominence. They're kind of coming in and they're making a lot of big time moves, and it's really looking to shape up like a very nice team. And they've added another key recruit, and we're going to get into that story here in just a moment. But Seminoles fans, we've got to know in the comments below. It is the holiday season and there's tons of traditions, whether they're football related or not. We want you to let us know in the comments below. What is your favorite holiday season tradition? Let us know in the comments below. But Nick, what are the Seminoles up to in the recruiting department?
Yeah, we talked about Florida State. I think last week or so we did a video about some news they were making. It seems like Florida State is definitely on the uptrend. But one of the things that you have, if you're a team on the uptrend, can you take that next step and go from being, a regional power to a national power, which Florida State obviously has a long storied history of being at that level. And I think this latest news is an indication that they are heading in that direction. So according to SB Nation, this is by Josh Pick and others. Florida State officially has its 2023 quarterback as Brock Glenn signed with the Seminoles. Glenn, a one-time Ohio State commit, that's huge, joined FSU's recruiting class in November after dogged pursuit by head coach Mike Norvell and quarterback Tony Tokars. I'm hoping that's how you pronounce his name. So he was committed to Ohio State, flipped to Florida State, and then officially they locked him up just recently to become a Florida State Seminoles quarterback and part of the 2023 class. And obviously, look, getting a four-star quarterback recruit, not a huge deal in the history of Florida State, right? You get these guys all the time. But the fact that this guy was a former Ohio State commit, right? The fact they're able to go and get a guy like that and bring him into the fold is further proof that Florida State is back to being national. Ohio State doesn't lose guys. They don't lose, especially at the quarterback position, especially at the wide receiver position. They don't lose guys. You get a guy like Burrow, he has to want to transfer a year or two in. Like, they don't bring in guys and then have the guys, after they commit, say, hey, I don't even want to go to Ohio State anymore. That doesn't happen. You have got, they're like Alabama in that regard, where people transfer out after a year or two if they don't like the fit, but they don't lose guys in the recruiting process. The fact that Florida State was able to steal this guy from Ohio State proves to me that the power in recruiting with Mike Norvell and his Florida State program is back. And if they can keep this momentum going, Miles, I think they're going to really quickly rise to the top of the ACC and potentially start making some college football playoff runs once again. What do you think? Do you think there's a lot of momentum behind this Florida State program? Because it feels like the wind's at their back and they're just heading in the right direction.
Oh yeah, Nick. I think there's a lot of wind in the sails of the Seminoles. I think they're making a lot of momentum. And I really like this pickup for them because this isn't just any ordinary four-star quarterback. This guy seems to be the real deal. He's a big guy. He's 6'2", 195. He was an Elite 11 finalist, so that's a pretty big deal there. He had a pretty good senior year as quarterback, 18 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, so took care of the ball reasonably well. And he also ran for 7 touchdowns, so he's very athletic. He can use his feet. He has good pocket awareness from his scouting report. So there's all kinds of good attributes that are stacking up for him to be a really strong recruit for this team, Nick. But, I really like what Florida State is doing, and I think the key here is what you brought up, their ability to get a recruit and flip them from a college football playoff team like Ohio State and get them to come back to Florida State. That is huge, Nick. That shows that they're a formidable team, and a guy like this, Brock Glenn, thinks that he can come to Florida State, make a huge difference. And Nick, I want to show you this. At the time, I believe the averages or the predictability chart says at the time he had a 90.9% chance of going to Ohio State with just a 9% chance of going to Florida State. So it's pretty remarkable they were able to flip him, and I think that shows just how much things are going in Florida State's direction.
Well, especially when you look at the recruiting class that the Florida State already had, because it did have A.J. Duffy already, who was there, who was already commit, who's a talented young guy as well. So it wasn't like they were, the cupboard was totally bare and they were bringing in Glenn to be the savior. He was the only guy. It's not like an Arch Manning thing where it's like, hey, you're the guy, you're the legend, you're going to turn the program around and take us to the next level. They already had some young guys in the pipeline that they've been developing, and they still were able to pull this guy. It's one of those things. I don't know how some of these recruiters do it. Obviously, NIL things may factor in a little bit, but to take that up against Ohio State and win that battle, man, that is unheard of. You don't hear about Ohio State losing battles, especially at quarterback. I think this is a great sign, and it's further proof that Norvell and his crew there are doing an outstanding job, right? We saw them come back. They beat LSU. They had a strong season. We'll see how the future holds. I think there's a lot of bright spots coming, but just the talent they're bringing back into Florida State, which it wasn't that long ago that Florida State was churning out superstar pros and big time first and second round draft picks. I think they're very rapidly heading in that direction again.